My parents tried to mess me up. Oh, but I had something under these sleeves right here that was enough to finish them off. And there's a little secret I need to tell you about my parents. Let me tell you about exactly what they decided to do with my credit card. Oh, and let me tell you what I did after I found out. I, 32 male, have had a complicated hostile relationship with both of my parents over the years. My parents adopted me when I was still a baby from my birth mother. I don't know how much about my biological parents because they decided on a closed adoption, meaning that there was no contact information exchanged between my birth mother and my parents. All I know is that the moment I was born, I was given to my parents, and I've always felt this need to repay them for adopting me. My parents were told that they could not have children after trying to conceive for a few years, which led them to adopt me so that they could finally have a happy family. My mother got pregnant with my younger brother Sam a year later after adopting me. You would think that our happy family would now be complete and filled with happiness. Wrong. Our family was far from the ideal happy family that my parents have envisioned. You see, my parents have always been selfish, and it's become worse throughout the years, straining and poisoning our relationship. They've always put themselves first above me and my brother's needs by solely focusing on their selfish desires. Whenever I would confront them about it, their selfish, malicious ways, they would respond by saying that we should be grateful to have parents like them, especially since my birth mother didn't want me. I would have probably ended up in a horrible foster care home if it wasn't because of them adopting me. Over the years, my relationship with my parents have gotten more strained, toxic, and definitely a bit complicated. Their bitterness and envy have grown more poisonous over the years, also, not just with me, but also with my brother. However, because I have so much appreciation for my parents adopting me, I decided to provide them with a $20,000 loan that they say they desperately needed, yet never told me what for exactly. But I did make sure to include a repayment clause. A few years have passed since I gave them a loan. I'm currently the owner of a successful tech startup. And thanks to the success of the startup, I rapidly rose to wealth and power. I'm one of the youngest successful inventors of the decade and have a very respectful reputation in the tech industry. All of this has led me to have a very financial stable lifestyle, which I did not take advantage of because I have remained humble throughout all the success, power, and wealth. Unfortunately, my power, wealth, it's fueled my parents' jealousy and resentment, which has added more strain to our relationship, but I do my best to help them out wherever I can, as they're still my parents and I feel that I owe them for adopting me, because life could have been much more different. After not seeing my parents for over a year, I decided to call Sam and suggested that we should go visit our parents. Sam was reluctant at first and took some time just to convince him, but he eventually agreed. We agreed to go see them on a Saturday since we're both free that day, and I called my mother to inform her that we want to come down and see them. The call was short and brief as always, and she let me know that she'll cook lunch, which by the way shocked me because she hardly cooks. She's never been the typical mother throughout our childhood, and Saturday comes around and I decide to leave for Sam's apartment early, so we can go out and have breakfast together before heading to our parents for lunch. I get to Sam's place, and he's outside waiting for me with a huge smile. He gets inside the car, and we drive off to a nearby cafe. We get inside and get seated, and I order a cappuccino with an omelet, while Sam orders a macchiato with, huge breakfast and 2 slices of bread with boiled eggs, sausages, and bacon, and I say, will you be able to eat any lunch? You know, that mom isn't the best cook, and besides, hey, you're paying. He says it to me with a huge grin. Well, he isn't lying. Cooking was never one of her best talents. We wait for about 10 minutes, then our waitress comes to us with our food. We thank her and immediately dig in, which, by the way, was delicious. I ask him about work. He tells me how much he loves the slow pace, and he let me know that he's glad that he decided to make the move this side after graduation. I tell him that I'm happy for him, and mention that it's a good thing that he lives close to our parents. He frowns and reminds me that he did not move back to this side for them. Sam also has a complicated relationship with our parents, so I just slowly nod my head and take one last sip of my drink before we head out. Our parents stay 15 minutes away from where Sam stays. We arrive at our childhood home, and it still looks the same from the outside, so I park the car, and we go knock on the door. Our mother answers. Well, Sam is a splitting image of our mother. They have the same dark brunette hair color and dark hazel brown eyes. We greet our mother with fake smiles on our face, and we go inside and sit in the living room. Our parents' home is small, but very warm and homey, which is ironic because our parents are exactly the opposite of that. Our father comes in, and you can say that we have similar features. He has sort of short brunette hair, but gray eyes. He greets us and we greet back, and our father comments on how Sam's doing at work, and emphasizes the fact that this is a small accounting firm that hardly makes any money, which is not true. Sam just rolls his eyes, but responds respectfully that work is going well and that the firm is not going broke. At this point, Dad decides to make a snide little comment, and I do my absolute best to try to defend Sam, which leads to our dad making a hostile comment about the fact that it makes me happy to see my brother working at a small firm, since it gives me no competition and makes it look like I'm the better successful brother. I'm gobsmacked by what father just said, because it is, well, far off from the truth. The exact moment Sam graduated, I offered him a junior accounting position at the company. But he told me that he had his eyes on another company and felt that it would lead him onto the path that he wanted to follow. Sam proceeds to let our dad know that he does not feel intimidated by my success, and he's proud of his success and reminds him that he decided not to work in my company. I can hear the annoyance in his voice. Our mother comes into the living room and tells us to stop being at each other's throats, because all of our voices are annoying and giving her a headache. I noticed that she's changed a bit, into more of a formal outfit and has a bit of makeup on. I asked her about lunch, and she said that she'd be cooking lunch, and then we had our phone call earlier in the week. She just rolls her eyes at us and says that since I'm so successful and always making moolah, she thought that it would be nice for me to take us out instead. And she even proceeds to flash a smile. I'm taken aback because this was not part of the plan. She said that she wanted to cook us a homemade meal, but it was just a lie. I know I'm very well off, and I don't mind doing anything for my family, to be honest with you, but it's always felt that my parents expected me to take care of them because they did me a favor by, well, adopting me. So, I make mention that I wasn't aware of the change of plans. She then says that it's the least I can do since they adopted me, and the reason that I'm where I am is because of them, and she then continues to apply more lipstick. Dad adds on by saying that I owe them a lot because they took me to school and provided me all these years. Sam defends me by bringing up the fact that I worked hard to get my full funded scholarship because they didn't want to send me to university. However, Sam defending me causes more drama because our mother decides to tell him to shut up because he doesn't do anything for them and brings up that he doesn't send them money for groceries, and that he did not even contribute a cent to her birthday celebration, and just adds the typical line of she gave birth to him. Sam rolls his eyes and gets up to take a cigarette to smoke outside, and I tell Mom that she didn't have to yell at him while I shake my head. She throws another insult by saying that he is a grown man, and that I do not have to defend him, especially when he's being disrespectful towards us. I sigh deeply and just go check on Sam, who's smoking outside in the garden, and asked him if he's okay. Well, he says that he is okay, but he just wants to leave because he can't deal with them when they start acting like this. I can see the sadness in his eyes, and it just reminds me of when we were kids. He had the same sadness that would appear in his eyes whenever our parents would shout or insult him. I ask him to entertain them for at least an hour. He responds by asking me why I always feel like I owe them something, and just adds on to the fact that they're not the reason why I'm even successful, and that I would have made it regardless. Well, he mentions that I studied hard to get the scholarship while they would leave us home with nothing to eat because they were just out traveling. Sam's telling the truth, but I've taken all those traumatic sad memories and just stored them away. Sam is more expressive and vocal than I am, and I'm always trying to keep the peace for the sake of the family. Our mother yells that she wants to leave because there's this restaurant and she wants to try out all her friends have been telling her about. And, by the way, it's in the city. I tell her that Sam is upset and I think that she should apologize before we leave. I've always been intimidated by my mother, mainly because she is very loud and very vocal, especially regarding insults. She then yells, asking what must she apologize for, and telling Sam to stop being so emotional like a little girl, while rolling her eyes. She goes to the couch where my jacket and wallet are and give them to me with a huge smile. I just gasp in shock at her comment. Sam starts walking towards the door and tells her that he's leaving, and because I am his ride, that means that we are leaving. I see my mom's eyes flare up with immediate anger. Our mother screams that we're not going anywhere and that she deserves to be taken care of after all she's done for us. She even points out that because of Sam, she got all sorts of stretch marks and lost her figure just to give birth to him, yet he's so selfish and ungrateful. Sam shakes his head and puts his hands on his handle. I immediately follow behind him because my mother is very hot-headed and can easily lose her temper. My dad makes a sly comment that I've always thought I'm better than them since, well, starting that company, and then mentions that it was my mother who wanted to adopt me. After hearing that comment, Sam leaves, and I follow after hearing that comment from my dad. He always brings up my adoption as if I was the one who asked them to adopt me. I unlock the car and we both got inside of the vehicle. I start the engine and I drive off. The drive to Sam's place was quiet and I could tell that Sam was really upset over the encounter. I make a joke to him that at least this was better than our last visit, trying to lighten the mood. He then responds by saying that our last visit was an absolute disaster, and no wonder I don't come up to visit them because they become bitter and hostile every time we come to see them. I agreed with him, but remind him that they are our parents and that we needed to at least respect them. He disagrees and tells me that it's not fair on us that we must respect them when they have no respect for us, and that he does not understand how I can still have respect for them after everything they've done to us. I know that Sam feels that our parents take advantage of me because I feel that I owe them, but he tries to be understanding since he doesn't understand how it must feel to be adopted. I drop Sam off at his place and proceed to drive back home with so many thoughts on my mind. Update number 1. Hey guys. A few weeks go by and I'm just at the office busy with paperwork. My personal assistant pages me to let me know that my financial advisor is here. I tell her to let him come through since I don't remember setting a meeting with him, meaning that this must be very important. John, he's my financial advisor and has been my advisor since the early days of the tech startup. He knows everything about the company's finances inside and out. He comes into my office, greets me, and takes a seat. I see that he's holding a file filled with documents, and I asked him what he brings him in today. He just shakes his head. He asks me what have I been using the company credit card for, and I tell him that I've not used it for over a year. Well, the company credit card is only used for emergency use, and John advised me to never use it for my personal needs. He takes out a piece of paper and puts it on the table. All I see are transactions that have been made in the last few weeks on the card, but these are transactions that I have no clue about. He tells me to turn the page and look at the total amount of debt on the card, and I turn it to see a total of $10,000. $10,000! I looked at him in shock and tell him that I have no idea what's even going on. He asks me where's the card, and I let him know that it's always in my wallet. So I proceed to take it out and search for the card, which I can't seem to find. I frantically search my wallet, and I can't find the card anywhere. John just tells me, hey buddy, calm down, and that he'll go down to the bank this afternoon and get more information regarding the transactions. And he tells me to try to remember when the last thing I did with the wallet around people, which, by the way, is hard to even think about because I'm always around people. Later in the day, I get a call from Josie, who asks if I want to go out for dinner. Josie's my childhood best friend that I grew up with. We were also neighbors up until her family moved away after she went to college. I agreed to go out with her for dinner. The clock hits 5 p.m., and since John hasn't come back to the office or called me, I assume that he sorted this company credit card issue out. As I'm packing up my stuff and putting my laptop in my laptop bag, I received a call from Sam, which I answer. He greets me, and I greet him back. We chat for a while since it's been some time since we last spoke, and work's been keeping us both busy. I tell him that I can't stay on the phone for too long because I have a dinner date with Josie. He then asks me if I know that our parents have bought 2 new vehicles. I tell him that I didn't know, and have not spoken to them since the day that we saw them. At this point, he tells me that apparently Dad got paid out by his workplace because of the injury he got while on duty. Well, I raised my eyebrow and wonder why they would spend that money on 2 brand new cars when they already had a functioning vehicle, but hey, it's their money. I head off to have dinner with Josie at this new restaurant she wants to try out. I walk into the restaurant that Josie had chosen and find her already seated. She waves at me and I walk over to her. I hug her and sit down and notice that she has a glass of wine. So I jokingly just say to her that she started without me, to which she responds by telling me that she can never trust my time management skills since I am now a big shot CEO. We order our food and proceed to catch up since it's been months since I last saw Josie. She tells me about how she's enjoying her new job as a nurse at the local hospital. It was always her dream to become a nurse, and she's pretty good at it because she's naturally a caring person. I tell her about work and how my last encounter with my parents went, and she just frowns and deeply sighs because she's never liked my parents. She didn't like how they treated me and Sam, and she feels that they're toxic and bitter. I explain to her what happened, and she says, what did I expect? That's how my parents have always been, and like Sam, she feels that they take complete advantage of me when she doesn't like it all. We end up having a good catch-up dinner, which was needed because I do not see her that much due to both of our busy schedules. Update number 2. It looks like the company credit card drama's escalated and more debt's been accumulated during the last couple of days. John called to tell me that he has urgent news to tell me since we had discovered that the credit card's being misused. So I arrive at the office and John's already inside seated. He looks stressed, worn out. There are papers all over my desk. I take a seat and ask him what's going on, and he tells me that his meeting at the bank did not go well at all, and that it's way worse than he thought. He tells me to look over a stack of papers and have a loan agreement on the top of the page, and I ask him, what is this? He tells me that 2 brand new cars were bought under the company in the form of a loan. I tell him that's impossible, and he tells me to look at the papers. So I scan through the papers, and what he's saying is true. 2 expensive cars were bought under the company's name, and the credit card was used to pay for the deposit. I feel a pit in my stomach, and I'm confused, and he just tells me there's more, and by the way, I should stop right now and take a deep breath. I stare at him anxiously, as he breaks down to me that the person using the company credit card is my mother, and the bank confirmed that it was her that took out the loan. My body and brain went into utter shock, and I felt paralyzed by what John was telling me. My mother was going around swiping large amounts onto the money, accumulating so much debt, and clearly that was not enough. She then decides to use my company's name to take out a loan for 2 brand new cars. Oh yeah, and not just any cars. I'm talking expensive cars. What parent does that to their child? My heart breaks into little pieces and I feel betrayed by the person that's supposed to love and protect me. I know my father was also in on this, but how can they be so evil? Especially after everything I've done for them. My sadness quickly turned into anger. They're going to pay, and John just tells me that he managed to stop the card and got canceled, which is fine because we can always set up a new card. But the debt that's been accumulated needs to be paid off, and those cards need to go back to the dealership. My mind starts spinning as I try to figure out how I'm going to handle this. Normally, I would just let things slide, but not this time. I remember providing my parents with a 20%, $20,000 loan, which included a clause that stated that the interest rate would increase to 35% per year after a decade, meaning that the money could be used to pay off the debt that they've made on the credit card. I thank John for all his hard work and effort. Update number 3. Another update, guys. I've just been at Sam's place for the last couple of days. Just trying to digest everything that's been going on, and well, he has been an amazing support system. Even Josie has come down to check. I'd filled both her and Sam in about what my parents have done, and they were not shocked by the actions because they have always known that their greed could never be satisfied. Today is the day I finally confront my parents about them using my company credit card, and also them taking out a loan under my company. Sam has agreed to come with me for moral and emotional support, and we just arrived at my parents' house and I start aggressively knocking at the door. My mother answers and she immediately rolls her eyes, but I don't care. I just confront them about using my company credit card, and it did not take them too long to confess to the crime. My father claimed that I owed them, and they're using exactly what I owed them. I can feel my anger start to escalate, and I just tell them I worked hard to get where I am, and I've always been there for them, even though they treat me like rubbish. My mother is about to say something, and I tell her to shut up. She looks at me shocked and a bit afraid. My father gets up to try to square up with me, but my mother tells him to sit down. And I tell him that if he lays a hand on me, he will have more than his stupid hip injury to worry about. Sam pulls me back a little to ensure that I do not end up hitting our father because they would use that against me, seeing that they don't mind stooping low enough to get what they want. My father sits down, and I can see the shock in their faces, but this is what you get when you push somebody too far. I tell them that we are going to go to the bank so that they can be held responsible for paying off the credit card debt, and also the loan of the cars. They both laugh and ask me where I think that I'll be getting that much money from when they both are retired. I coldly reminded them about the $20,000 I provided them with and threatened to confiscate their house so that they can fulfill the clause in the contract. They just stare at me with this unbeknownst type of fear once I mention the loan and confiscating their house. I tell them that if they don't come clean and come down with me to the bank, I will confiscate their home to pay off the loan and credit card debt. Try me. I mention coldly to them that if they don't comply, I will go to the police and charge them with fraud, which, by the way, will lead to imprisonment for both of them. My mother at this point, well, she starts to cry. She was begging me to not just take her matter to the police, while my father stubbornly tried to act like he's not intimidated. Unfortunately, at this moment, my mother's tears did not move me either, because she did not care how she was hurting me or destroying my work. She was only thinking about herself and her selfish desires. I tell her that I will not take this matter to the police if they agree to handle the debt, since they already owed me for the loan I provided them with years ago. My mother agrees while sobbing, and I take out a contract for them to sign. My mother immediately signs it, fearing just of going to some sort of trial in court and being sent to prison in her old age. She couldn't survive it. My father just glared at me with so much bitterness and hostility, but he doesn't scare me, and I will not let the scare tactics he used on me as a child work now. And I ask him, straight up, if he's going to sign it, or does he want to spend his golden old age years in a prison cell? He tells me some very choice words, and it leads with this: go jump off of a cliff. I don't scare him. Okay, we could play that. I just shrug my shoulders and tell him that he should tell that to the judge when they're busy prosecuting him, but he freezes up a bit, and I can see that the thought of jail does frighten him. Oh, yeah. My mother tells him to just sign the damn contract so that they can continue to live their normal lives. I think that's the smartest thing I've ever heard her say in my entire existence. So he takes out that quail pen, and he signs that contract, but not without first giving me a death stare, which does not move me. He tells me that I must not get too comfortable, and that all great giants eventually fall. Update number 4. Well, 4 months later. So guys, months have passed since I found out that my parents were trying to screw me over financially. They kept their word, and we all went to the bank to sort all this mess out, and they have to pay back the bank for both the credit cards and the car loans that they took out, and thankfully none of those malicious misconducts are attached to my name or my company. They had to give back the cars, but at least they have a roof over their head like they used to tell me, Sam and Karma. Well, it does work in mysterious ways. I decided also to start going to therapy, and through therapy I've managed to cut off my parents without feeling guilty. My therapist told me that it was my parents' choice to adopt me, and I don't owe them a thing. And that all these years they've been gaslighting and straight up manipulating me. I've been focusing on myself and healing my inner child's wounds with the support of Sam and Josie, who have been my emotional pillars of strength. Maybe, one day, I'll have a relationship with my parents again. But for now, I'm happy and content without them. So, all we have here is basically a story where OP just needs to cut somebody out of his life, and in this situation, it turns out to be his parents. I mean, guys, I could not imagine being in such a toxic relationship with my parents. We're talking $20,000 being stolen from his company credit card to just invest in 2 vehicles and buy them using a loan. That is against the law. So guys, let me know what you think about how at the end of the story, OP pressed his parents and got them in trouble and forced them to do what he wanted them to do. A lot of people were mixed in the comment section. They didn't really know whose side to take. Some people thought OP went a bit far, and a lot of people thought OP did not go far enough. So there was mixed emotions to this story. I just want to know, where do you guys lie with this one? Drop it in the comment section down below. Let's talk about it. If you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day, and I try to find every single update. If you're bored and you just want to listen to some stories, stop on by, see what we're up to. But if you just can't get enough, go ahead and check my channel down below for my main channel and all my other channels, which include Mr. Reddito Animated with animated stories attached to my narration. Guys, have a fantastic day. I will see you tomorrow in tomorrow's adventures. And until then, just remember, it's cool to be kind.